Hi there, this is Erin, Byron, the Enlightenment Activist, coming to you from my home practice space. Starting today's video with a trigger warning that it might be triggering content for people who are trauma survivors, especially childhood abuse survivors or sexual trauma survivors. I wish that I myself had gotten a trigger warning when I was out in a public place on Friday. Not to point fingers at anybody, because public places like grocery stores and health clubs and car dealerships and all kinds of places where we go to take care of ourselves and ensure our own safety are playing the news as if that is an appropriate thing to do. So you go to the gym to take care of yourself and the news is playing. You go to the hospital waiting room hoping to relax and the news is playing, and it's an ongoing stream of stories that repeat words that create violence in our minds. So just having the news on, for those of you yogis, is a violation of the first principle, the yamas, and cultivating non-harm and state of mind. So because thankfully the fifth limb of yoga is pratyahara, mastery of our senses, we are able to focus on other things, but where we have sensitivities, sometimes that violence gets in our headspace. So when the news story on Friday broke about the human trafficking ring and child pornography ring that was broken up in Ontario, I asked someone official where I was to change the station so I could focus on what I needed to focus on there. Now, when our Prime Minister of Canada here was elected, another child pornography ring was broken up basically in his backyard. So it's interesting that we get to see these two stories, what happened in Ottawa and what's going on near Toronto, unfold kind of in real time, and we can see this process of justice move through. In the past, we don't tend to see very harsh sentences for those who are involved in child pornography. Those caught consuming child pornography might get 2 years, where if you've been sexually abused as a child, and we figure as much as half the population has been, then you know that the sentence of living through that, it goes on for a long time. It's hard. So from the Enlightenment activist perspective, what we're doing is we're taking our own lives and state of mind and using our actions to create a difference in the world. So I myself have written some books, trained some therapists, I do clinical supervision, and have worked in the field of trauma and abuse since I was 17 years old. So for you, in hearing of these things, the hope is that you also will find ways of taking what touches your heart and using that touch as an indicator or a compass that this is something that I can do something about, whether that is through volunteerism, education, public outreach, or speaking up to your government official who has some power to actually direct the way things go. Also, from an Enlightenment activism perspective, we're looking at decentralizing power. So this election reform and the Prime Minister backing out of his election promise to reform the way our electoral system works is highly relevant. In order for us to be able to make a change in the world, we need to have the power to make that change. We're not infants, we're not children, we're adults who are able to perceive an ethical code and violations of those boundaries, and we're able to decide for our own communities what is the best course of action to take. So the more power is taken out of a hierarchical structure and brought down to more level playing field, spread out as far as possible so that individuals in their own unique communities with their own unique situations are able to discern what's going to work. What's going to work for a First Nations person in the far north, or someone living on the prairies, or someone living in the big city in southwestern Ontario are going to have different needs, values, belief systems, and all of those range of opinions are valid. So the trigger for those many thoughts about where Enlightenment activism becomes relevant is from that news story on Friday that broke about human trafficking. Thank you for listening to my random musings. To hear more of thoughts that cross through my mind, subscribe below and you'll be notified when my videos are uploaded. Just thought I would share those thoughts with you. Thank you for listening.